Good morning, 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 good morning. All that's good audio. Testing, 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 testing.
restores. I believe he's the God of peace. I believe he's my everything. Oh, I believe. I believe God hears. I believe God answers prayers. I believe God sees. I believe he'll speak for me. Oh, I believe he will fight for us. Oh, I believe he won't forsake us. Oh, no, 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 no. Hey, I believe God. Oh, he answers by fire. He answers by breath. He'll answer by whatever you need. I believe, Lord. He answers by fire. God answers by breath. He'll answer by whatever you need. I believe God. I believe God. Oh, I believe he answers prayers. Oh, yes, God sees you. I believe he'll speak for me. I believe God. I believe God. Now unto him who is able to get it done for you.
Up when I was a young man on Saturday mornings, we were always up early. How many old people? How many people over 50 on this? I say old people over 50. Remember that? We were up. Gwendolyn, raise your hand. But when we were growing up, on Saturday mornings there was always two types of music played in most of our houses. If your family was extremely religious, you heard gospel music. You heard the James Cleveland, but you always you were up during that time. If your family, parents were a little bit more liberal, you heard Sam Cooke and Marvin Gaye, and but you were doing one thing: you were always cleaning. We were cleaning up on Saturday mornings. We were up early morning cleaning, and so I've learned to really, really appreciate it. And young men, we were outside. If it was the summer months or spring, summer, and the fall, we were outside cutting grass, edging up the yard. We were doing work. We were always up on Saturday mornings. I don't ever remember getting an opportunity to sleep in on a Saturday morning. And so I applaud you all for getting up. There's three blessings that you get: get up, look up, wake up, get up. Wake up, look up, and get up. If you can do those things every day, that you count yourself blessed, okay? So we have a absolute phenomenal workshop for you today. And I want you all to give Ms. Gwen Mason a round of applause for always thinking bigger than we think, and this message today is really bigger than, just being on Auburn Avenue or in the city land. And also, I never want to take anybody for granted. Give our sound people a huge round of applause to make sure that you have, because We have this visually. So not only do you see the people in the room watching this, we shared this on social media, and there are people that's going to be looking at it all over across the country. And some people will be looking at it, maybe not while it's live, but they'll go back to the link and they'll look at it again. So again, thank you all for always getting up early every morning to do this. And thank you to our team, our registration team. Margie's not here, but her presence is here, Sharon and Sharon, working hard and they, making sure that you all got in. Maureen for making sure we had desserts and not desserts, but for refreshments this morning to eat and get us started, and all the parents who brought everybody out. We just don't take that for granted. And we got a couple of things, and this young man, Ms. Mason and I, we're real partial to. And that's Mr. Chris Butts. Y'all give Mr. Chris Butts a round of applause. We started an organization, a part of the organization called Bridging the Gap, Taking the Torch, and it was young people around that mid to upper 20s to almost 40 during the George Florida era. And Chris was one of the young men that started with us and has just done phenomenal work. And so we're just excited about him. Thank you for every month bringing young people out to this organization and having these programs ready to go. So I'm gonna bring up a couple people because every month we try to make sure that we give you something that you can use almost immediately, right? And so it's nothing like having books. Nothing like books. I mean, books will, if you've never, I'm sorry, let me go back. The first, I want to bring up Jamarcus, who is our own little star. I remember when Jamarcus first started coming to the foundation. He was like 8 years old. I think he's 16 now. 8 years of age. I'll never forget this. And Jamarcus was running for office, right? And this is what you call tenacity. Marcus, come on up, Marcus. Jamarcus. How long have you been an officer for the foundation? About 5 years now? 6 years? Right. And he's been with the organization for 8 years, about 8 years, right? But I never forget when he was running, the first year he was running, he kept losing. And he ran for every office, and he continued to lose. And finally, Jamarcus said, why don't y'all just give the little guys a chance? Give the little guys a chance to win. And now he's a big guy. Now he's a leader, and a phenomenal leader, and we get messages from his mom often. And so Jamarcus is also going to be, he's a stand-in for be ye ready. Always be ready. Because he's an understudy who got knocked up to playing in a part this week, right? Because he was ready to do it. So always be ready. Don't take time to get ready. Stay ready. Stay ready. So Jamarcus is going to do our morning prayer for us. So y'all give Jamarcus your uninvited attention.
Everybody bow your heads and close your eyes. Lord Jesus, we thank you for allowing everybody to come in one place, and those who couldn't make it, I hope they're safe. Jesus, we pray that we can have a good, smooth program. Everything runs nicely. Everything goes as planned. We hope that everybody can walk out here learning something new and learning something even about themselves. We pray for everybody to have good health, and everybody who came here and everybody who's going to leave to make sure they get home safely. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Great job. Always proud of him. Always proud of Jamarcus. And coming up next, good, you can sit. You're going to sit down. Coming up next is a young lady, Angela Reed. Angela's real special to me, not just to the organization, but to me. She, everybody needs a conscience. Everybody needs somebody who's going to keep you. I got a couple of people who keep me in check. One is sitting up here to my left, first seat to my left, right here. And whenever I'm not doing something, I will find out, and I'm better because of it. You got to have people around you who can check you. who can keep you grounded, who can keep you straight. And so Gwen does that on a daily basis. Angela does that, and who's always shooting me things in Messenger about a book or about just history, female history, black history, just history just in general. And so one of the things that we did about 7 years ago, it's almost been about 7 years now because we've been in the so it's been about 6 to 7 years. We knew, Jerome, we knew we needed a book club, and we had been talking about how do we start this book club, Sean, and Angela is as good as it comes. We have the absolute best in our city, in our state, in our country as a part of the Stewart Foundation. So Ms. Angela Reed's going to come up and talk to you about some books, and you get an opportunity to take these books home. I think she's given out through the foundation and beyond, I know in the last 5 or 6 years, over 4,000 books. Majority of them are African-American authors or illustrated. So you're going to hear some more again today, Ms. Angela Reed.
Everyone. Good morning, everyone. I'm wearing my Maya Angelou shirt because this is National Poetry Month, and her birthday was on April 4th. She stopped celebrating her birthday in 1968 on April 4th. Do you all know why?
Y'all know 1968.
April 4th. What happened on April 4th in 1968? Young folks? Someone was murdered. Someone was murdered on April 4th, 1968. Martin Luther King Jr., yes. So she stopped celebrating her birthday. And now there's this beautiful picture book biography that's written in poetry about her. And someone already took a copy of this off the table, but if any of you want this one, anybody in the audience want it, you may have it. But it's beautifully, beautifully written. I'll put it back on the table then. Thank you. You're welcome. A couple of books up here I want to share with you. This is my all-time favorite writer, Langston Hughes. Reason why? He's best known for his poetry, but he wrote in every genre. I mean, he wrote plays, he wrote an opera, authored an opera with Zora Neale Hurston. He wrote short stories, he wrote biography, and he wrote nonfiction. But he, of course, is best known for his poetry, and this is actually an illustrated poem of his poem, Dream Variations. And I always tell people, most people love the heat, which I cannot stand. I love cold weather. Most people love the bright sun. I do not. My body does not. But one of the lines in this poem is, well, the poem talks about how you work so hard and sweat and work during the hot, bright day, but night comes on gently, black like me. And I've never forgotten that line. I read this when I was in probably junior high. They didn't have middle schools when I was in school. But love this poem, love this book. This is actually a new book by an Atlanta-based poet. And if you go on YouTube, you can actually hear her reading this. And it highlights and it features and it celebrates being black. When most things in this world, especially in this country, do not celebrate being black in any fashion or form. This book does. The illustrations are beautiful, and the last line of the poem is, "You so black, when you smile, the stars come out." By the way, if any of you are on Facebook, if you will follow Stewart Foundation Writers Readers, I post a lot of this. Every day this month I've been posting black poets and YouTube links to their poems if they're audio. This is another book by a poet named Nikki Grimes. She's written a lot of books for middle schoolers. And this is a book about a little girl who is bored to tears in school. She spends most of her day looking out the window and daydreaming. very bright student, but she's not challenged in school. So this book is written in poetry, and it's called Words with Wings, because as she looks out the window, she thinks of all the things she could do if she could fly away and put her words on paper and spread her wings. You want that one? Here you go. You're welcome. This one, I didn't actually know it was a poem until I looked through it, but it's actually highlights civil rights movement in this country, and it talks about incidents that have happened, but she does it in poems. And of course, the title is "And We Rise." We rise. And this one, some of you who've been with the Stewart Foundation a few years are familiar with, because it is a copy of Yusef Salaam's and Ibi Saboy's Punching the Air, which is a fictional account of a young boy, 14 years old, who gets accused, convicted of a crime he did not commit, and goes to prison. And it is written in poetry. This is unusual for a black child because he has a very supportive family, and so they keep in contact with him. They keep him from going crazy. They help keep him from getting in trouble, and he meets people while he's in prison that do the same thing. But think about all the people who go to prison. I heard there's a book that I recommended last month called Overground Railroad by Candace Taylor, and she says that in 2015, the prediction was that 1 out of every 3 black male children born would serve some time in jail. 1 out of every 3. And that's insane. And it doesn't mean that they committed crimes either. It just means that they're going to jail. And I don't know one black male or female who's over the age of 25 who has not been stopped by the police for no reason at all, driving while black. So what I want to close by saying is that so many people now are writing books and sharing in music and art, using the written word, all the experiences that we go through as black people in this country and abroad. And it would behoove you all to read some of them. So I am done. Thank you very much.
Excellent job. Excellent. Did y'all enjoy? Mic check. Okay. Did y'all learn anything on that? Anybody? What did you learn? Tell me something that somebody learned today that they did not know. You got a couple of people asking for books. What did you learn that you didn't know? Anybody? I think a lot of you, yeah, what did you learn? I'm sorry? On April 4th. Yeah, that was huge. I mean, the matter of fact, the SLC every year, women with the SLC is founded by Dr. King and several others, Dr. Abernathy, Dr. Lowry, and some other guys. And then the women started SCLC Women. Ms. Lowry was a part of that, and Phyllis is a part of it as we speak. And every year for the last, I can't remember, 20 years, they've been commemorating the assassination of Dr. King on the 4th, and they do what they call Drum Major for Justice. So that's just a bit of history. But thank you, Angela, for always dropping some nuggets, breadcrumbs for us to follow. And we get better because of what you do. A lot of people in this room who know me know that I love flowers, I love gardening. That's my therapy. Like, I love having my hand in the dirt. I can solve the world's problems when I'm out cutting my grass or edging my yard or blowing or planting things. And so Gwen and I had a conversation. Ms. Mason and I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago. Really a couple of months ago. It's been longer than that. We've been really talking about how do we expand bringing knowledge to our young people. and some of our seasoned people. And one of them was through agriculture. And the young lady I'm going to bring up, I've been knowing for, I know, at least 25 years. At least 25 years. We were very active together. She was an educator before she retired, and during her summers, instead of taking her summers off and just relaxing, she would come to the Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda and spend every Tuesday there. And she was always really big on a couple of things, and that's different languages and agriculture. And so we were able to convince, and I'm glad she accepted Phyllis, Miss Turner, to come in and be a part. From here on out, she will be a part of the foundation. And just dropping you little nuggets about agriculture. And one of the things she said to me, we were talking a couple of weeks ago, she said, can you imagine if the Stewart Foundation had a garden and you planted tomatoes? You could take the tomatoes before they rot and make salsa, and we can sell the salsa. And she told me just a little quick recipe on how to do that. And I'm like, I didn't even think about that. Gwen, I had a bunch of tomatoes last year I planted, and a lot of them went bad because I just couldn't eat them fast enough. And you could have made salsa and stored it. Or there's, preserves. I have a pear tree. Jerome comes by and get a couple of those pears when I eat them. But I have so many pears on the tree that they go to waste, and that's preserves. So how to live off the land is what we're talking about. And so I'm going to bring up Ms. Turner to talk to you and give you some tips, and then from monthly she'll give you some tips, because we're in a planting season right now. And I planted peppers. Ms. Mason planted some tomatoes. I got peppers, tomatoes. I got squash, zucchini, and all of that stuff that I'm growing. And I love it because I get an opportunity to eat fresh food that I can cook myself. So, Ms. Turner, can you share with us? And it's on YouTube.
Good morning. It is an absolute privilege. It's an honor. It's a blessing. It's all of that to be here in this moment. And I'm here mindfully. I'm here because so I'm a legacy family farmer, and I didn't bring visuals with me today because I'm going to invite you to use your imagination. And as I said to Gwen earlier, this is laying the foundation of the why. Like, why am I here? Why are we here together? How did we get here? With the land that we're on. And for our history buffs in here, you know that there were a lot of wars fought on this ground in Atlanta. And you know that people who look like us were the object of those wars, trying to maintain a system. And so a lot of our ancestors' blood, sweat, and tears is in this soil that we stand on. Land as sacred land. And for a moment, that where we travel across the state of Georgia, and historically, and then think about our place, our ancestors, and our right to a better life because of this land that we're on right now. I am a legacy family. In 1899, my great-grandfather and as I've had an opportunity to study my history, I came to understand that those row crops like beans and tomatoes and corn and whatever else he planted, that was to sustain him and his family at that time. But the pecan trees, he knew would outlive him. And because he was one of 17 siblings, and because he had 13 children, one of those children was my grandfather, who ended up having 14 children. My mother was a middle child of 14. Those were to sustain the generations after him. So there are people in our past who were looking way into the future. People in your past who were looking way into the future because they were planning for you to have opportunities such as this. And to come into that place where you would have that Sankofa moment, where you could go back to the past and pull those lessons from your past and bring them into your future, your present, to make better use of them so that you can create a better future for yourself. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about where we are today with agriculture. In Georgia right now, well, let me start by saying agriculture is science, and science is everywhere. And because we have these scholars in here, how many of you love science? There you go. Science is everywhere. We can't get away from science. There's a science of our hair, of the products that we use on our hair. There's a science that goes into making our skincare products. There's a science that goes into the foods that we eat, the vitamins that we take, the medicines that we take. It's all about science. Science is everywhere. But there's also another category of science called agricultural. A college or university, and I know that's a rhetorical question because everybody's going to raise their hand. How many of you are planning to attend a college or university? All right. How many of you have considered the 1890 land-grant universities? Those are your HBCUs with strong agricultural programs in them. Absolutely. So whether you're going to major in business or economics or health science or education or by whatever it is you plan to major in, if you put that agricultural STEM on it, that agriculture handle, because we're having a challenge with getting minority individuals into the STEM fields, you could major in agricultural business and get a free ride. You could major in agricultural economics and get a free ride. You could major in ag education and get a free ride. You could major in agricultural health, ag health science, and get a free ride. Because our land-grant institutions like Fort Valley State, and Alabama A&M, all of the Florida A&M. I was with the dean of Florida A&M. He was visiting a school, Fulton Leadership Academy, yesterday, talking to the scholars over there about the money that's available to them if they were to choose a degree or field in agriculture. And I say that to say, with agriculture, there is no limit to where you can go because your degree gives you a 2-for-1. If you just put that agriculture stamp on it, it gives you a 2-for-1. But now let me just go back and say to you that also, as you are thinking about where we are in this present day climate, economics, job searches, all of those kinds of things are going hand in hand. What I tell my high school students, when you get to school and you get that refund from your financial aid, take $2,000 and put it to the side. Don't go shopping with it. Find that's $2,000. If you can't, save it till the next semester. Take that money, buy yourself an acre of land. And if you do that over 4 years rather than going shopping with a landowner. That's the way you reclaim your legacy, because we are rooted and grounded in agriculture. And then that way you'll be able to tap into some of these funds. And I'm going to use, when you think about the United States, the Pentagon is the largest department. That's our Department of Defense, everything under there. The second largest department in our government is the Department of Agriculture. And the reason for that is you have just like you're sitting here, think about how many schools there are in the city of Atlanta or metro Atlanta. Think about across the state of Georgia, United States. Think about all the people that have to be fed. And right now in the state of Georgia, if you stood 7 children up here in front, is food insecure. 1 in 7 children, in general terms, is food insecure. For people that look like us, the statistics are even more devastating. That's just a general 1 in 7. But when I challenge you today, I don't know how much time I have. I know it's about time for me to take my seat. Garden, get a pot, grow a tomato plant, grow some peppers. Form a little co-op. The 4 of you sitting over there, I'm going to grow tomatoes. I'm going to grow peppers. I'm going to grow onions. I'm going to grow lettuce. And when we have our next banquet, we will supply the salad for the meal. So we're going to grow something else. We've got a little bit more space in our. And you know, there are warm season crops and cool season crops. So these things I'm mentioning to you. For a banquet. And then when you leave the store, or be a major player, have a seat at the table in feeding children. That's one of the phrases that's come to define our communities. Food sovereignty should be the reality that we're striving for, because every child has a right to breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And you don't get that by going through the drive-through. I'm talking about the breakfast, lunch, and dinner that feeds your body. See how fun it is to create it, and how fun it is to improve the health and wellness of our communities through agriculture. Brother Hank, you standing there? I guess it's time. Thank you all so much.
This is not your last time. You're now part of the monthly. You know, you have the monthly tips, just like Angela. I think. Did y'all enjoy it? Did anybody learn anything on that? I'm telling you, this is so crucial. The one thing God is not making anything more of, and that's land. He ain't making no more land. I mean, you can make a lot of things, but he's not making land. And so, Phyllis, thank you for the challenge. You know, Gwen and I talked about this. Ms. Gwen and I talked about this. And that's you all getting a seed. Go by Walmart and get you a pack of seeds. Right. Heirloom seeds, and just and go, get you a little pot. You don't have to have a whole garden. Just get a little pot. Right? And plant it and water it. Watch it grow. There's some justification. There's a feeling of gratification when you out of the ground that you planted. Right? So just try that. Start doing, broaden your horizon. And I like the whole idea of taking $2,000, buy you some land. We often talk about, when you're going to college, if you can, buy you a house and rent it out to 2 people. And let them pay the mortgage for you while you're there. And once you leave, rent the house out and find a way to make money. You got to start thinking outside and thinking broader than right now and long term. You all, I'm telling you, how many of y'all would like to be a millionaire? Raise your hand. Okay, some of y'all, your hands didn't go up because I think you want this next category is yours. You want to be a billionaire. Right. Okay. That's what you want to be. Because billion is now it's obtainable. You look at people like LeBron James and Michael Jordan and Oprah and all. Billions are now obtainable, and it starts where you are right now. It starts with your creativity. So I'm going to bring Ms. Gwen up, and she's going to introduce a young lady, give you another opportunity, and then we're going to get to our speaker.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. So glad to see each and every one of you. I heard the word economics this morning. with Miss Phyllis.
Go back, go see them, right? We could pass them out, and then if you would, if I can get Chris, thank you, Chris, I appreciate that. Get them, pass them out, fill them out, and then we can get you those instruments. How about that? So really excited about that because technology is crucial.
Technology is valuable and it is crucial, and we want you to have access to that. So thank you all so very much. Back to you, Hank.
Thank you, thank you. Y'all notice Ms. Gwen is normally up here doing this every month, but I was gone for 2 months, so she's hazing me today to make sure that that I'm up here as much as possible. But again, thank you all for coming. Thank you, Gwen, for that. Ms. Hendrick and Mark, thank you all for giving our young people in our community an opportunity to have access to technology. Because like Ms. Gwen said, technology is everything. So I'm going to bring up this young lady. I promise you, I could not be more proud of this young lady if she was my own daughter. I mean, she has represented the Stewart Foundation with such style, grace, and intellect. I remember during February, I was in Philadelphia, and we had our workshop. And I was working out. I was on the treadmill, and I started sending the link out to everyone. And Dr. Durley and all these different people were so impressed with not only Sue Ross, but Shania, our president, Madam President, Soraya, Madam President, and her questions and her answers. And then last month, you know, even her comments with Lynn Fawn and just some of the things, and her having to leave because she's so serious about her career that she had to leave because she was doing a paramedic workshop and, you know, things. If you want to know what excellence looks like, I'm going to bring her to the mic. This is what excellence looks like. Madam President, she's going to introduce our speaker.
Thank you for that amazing introduction. I have the pleasure of introducing our speaker today, Ms. Deshawn Dominique Jenkins, a global educator and connector, nonprofit leader, and international project director. Today, she's going to discuss the importance of and opportunities afforded with learning languages and international travel for children and their families. Managing Director, Georgia Institute of Entrepreneurship Initiative, and Africa Atlanta Project following her roles in global cancer and tobacco control at the American Cancer Society, as well as directing programs in international human rights and advocacy at Oxfam International in West Africa. Ms. Jenkins serves on the board of directors for two nonprofit organizations, Women Helping Women and Out of Hand Theater. She also tutors, consults, and collaborates with organizations and individuals to expand their global outreach. Ms. Jenkins enjoys traveling, cooking, and making friends around the world. Please put your hands together for Ms. Jenkins.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. How are you? If you're like my daughter, I had to push her out of bed today. And she's at a birthday party because otherwise she would have been here. And I just want to start by thanking Mr. Stewart with the Stewart Foundation as well as Gwen. I came to know the Stewart Foundation at my church at New Life Church. And there was this amazing program they were having with the kids traveling. And I'm like, hey, if I can get my daughter away on a Saturday, go. What I didn't realize was just how rich and committed this organization is to our children. So I thank you so much for this opportunity to share what I have and to join so many other experts that Mr. Stewart has had in front of all of you. So I also want to give a hand to the leadership within the organization and all of the children here. Thank you for your excellence, because as I often say, excellence is not an anomaly for my people. It's our legacy. We're brilliant, and we're not told that enough. We don't believe it enough, but please believe that. Also, two things that came up. Number one, April 4th is also Independence Day for the country of Senegal. And that's the country where I spent 5 years, did amazing international work, actually started my family there. And I'm also excited to follow Miss, what's your name again? Miss Phyllis Turner. And I was so excited by what she was sharing with you all. I guess you could tell she's excited about it and very passionate about it as well. Because several years ago, when I was at a meeting with the Georgia Secretary of Agriculture, and there were a group of women from Kenya, and they were the wives of the governors of Kenya. And they were dressed so beautifully, and they were speaking to the agricultural secretary, and he was excited, and they presented him with a cane and a pretty shawl, and, you know, he was happy, and he's like, yeah, you know, I'm having my back to Africa moment. And there was a gentleman who was from America. He was a black American, and he said, Mr. Secretary, if I could just stop for 1 second and share something. He says, we're happy for this occasion. Everyone's here. We're having a good time. And I'm so happy to have these ladies over from Kenya. But I would be remiss if I did not give homage to my ancestors, black people who were enslaved and came over to America. And he says, people just think that they brought labor, the labor of their hands. He said, but my people brought technology. And we brought agricultural technology that really sustained this country, which is now the most powerful country in the world still, because of our technology that we brought. So again, agriculture is not just planting something in the ground. It is technology. We are those type of people. We are that bad. So I just wanted to say that. So to the subject at hand, growing up global, raising and becoming a global citizen. Again, I'm Deshawn Jenkins, really excited to be here. And I want to make sure I advance these. Oh, wonderful. Okay. So I'm going to start you off with a global competency quiz. Get your juices flowing, because I know it's kind of warm in here. The lights are dark. I want to make sure y'all don't fall asleep. So a question, do France and Germany have different currencies? Who knows the answer to that? Yes. No? Okay. What is the currency? Okay, all right, we got that half right. And if somebody can help me keep score of who may get the most answers. So, okay, you said they don't. Name 3 countries in South America. Who can name 3 countries in South America? Yes, young man. Oh. Anyone? I'm going to get a kid first. Yes? South America. Mm-hmm. Chile. Argentina. I'm going to see if I can get one. Uruguay. Okay. Okay, Chile, Argentina, and Uruguay. What were you going to say, lovely? Guyana. Okay. All right. Thank you. Who can tell me who was Josephine Baker? Whoever heard that name, Josephine Baker? No? Okay. And then you wouldn't know which country if you don't know her, which country she immigrated to. No? Okay. All right. Who can tell me what is Ramadan? I think you answered already, young man, right? Did you? Or okay. Okay. Or did you already answer? Okay, so behind you. Okay. Okay, what happens during Ramadan? Okay. Yes. Oh, well, let me get this young lady. Okay, all right, which is called Eid. Okay. Who knows where the world's youngest population is? Which continent? This child is ready, yes. No, you? Mm-hmm. Which continent? You said Africa? Okay, we're going to see. Who knows what the world's population is? Yes. Okay. 7, 8. Okay, and 7, 8, and okay, you weren't looking at your phone, were you? Okay. All right, and then lastly, who knows how many countries are in Africa and how many of those countries speak French? Wild guess. How many countries in Africa? Yes. 34. How? 31. Yes. 32 and okay. How many of those do you think speak French? 28. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's see these answers. All right. Do France and Germany have different currencies? No. They have that one currency, which is the euro. Okay, good. Name 3 countries in South America. And the young man named quite a few, I think Chile, Uruguay, and Argentina. So these are among those countries. I think somebody said Guyana. Did someone? Okay, all right. Who is Josephine Baker? She's just one of my favorite people. She's no longer with us. She was a French-American dancer, singer, and actress who also fought in the French resistance during World War II. She fought for civil rights in the United States. And so that's a picture of her, but sometimes you'll see a picture of her like doing the banana dance. I think she was born in like 1906. She's really amazing because she was born this super poor girl, I think in Mississippi, somewhere in the South, or maybe it was Missouri. It was one of the M's. She was a singer. She goes on this review of singers, ends up in Paris, learns to speak French. She becomes a world-renowned French singer. This is like in the 1920s and 30s. And she actually, through her singing, helped send information as a spy to the troops to help them win the war against the Nazis. And then she was back in the United States standing beside Martin Luther King fighting for civil rights. She goes back to France, and because she's so invested in international cultures and languages, she adopts 12 children from races, nationalities all over the world and called them her Rainbow Tribe. And she died, I think, in the 1970s or something like that. So our Josephine Baker, who also, she died in Paris, but another person, James Baldwin, died in Paris. And so there's a connection there. Okay, what is Ramadan? And someone said, I had two answers. The 9th month of the Islamic calendar, one of the 5 pillars, they fast. So really great answers. I was surprised with that. The world's youngest population is in Africa. Okay? There are 1.4 billion people on the African continent, and Niger has the country with the youngest population, where the average age is 14 years old. The world's population now is 7.8 billion, so we're tipping up. And how many countries in Africa? There are 54, and 29 of those countries, I think, are French speaking. Who knew this information? It's like, okay, right, okay. So I don't know who had who had the most answers. There were 2. I know there was you and, okay. I have 2 cute keychains for you all from my travels. All right, one other. Who can name what countries these flags belong to? Yes. Huh? Ukraine, okay. Give me another one. Yes. Okay, China. Lady in the back and young man here. Mexico and young man. What's this one? How? Who said South Africa? You don't count. I mean, you count. I had to put that straight. You count. All right, so Ukraine, we see this one all the time. Mexico, our neighbor. China, our supplier, basically. And South Africa. Yes, sir. Good job. Okay, why is this all important? Because I'm going to tell you a story about opportunity meeting access. There's this girl whose parents are from a small city in Allendale, South Carolina. She was born in Savannah in the 40s, where there was deep segregation. She pursued an education and became a teacher. She was a world history teacher. And she dreamed of being a lawyer. She was curious. She had challenges. She had 3 daughters who were also curious. The youngest one went away to college at Oglethorpe University. She learned French and international affairs in order to travel. She created an international career in Africa, in Europe, and travel and work connecting people all over the globe. And that's me. The reason I put this is because I was born in Savannah, not the worst place, but I went to public schools, Beach High School, one of the first schools in the United States that was built from the ground up exclusively for black students. And in terms of resources, Beach High School didn't have a whole lot by the time I got there because it was built in the 30s or 40s. But in high school, I learned French because I was told, you need it for college credit. And I famously said, I will learn French and I'll never use it again. And so when I got to university at Oglethorpe, I was told, well, if you study international relations, you get a free trip out of it. So I said, I will learn French, study international relations, and that's all I'll do. Well, my last semester in French completely changed my life. I met friends I didn't know. It was an opportunity for me to use my talents in singing. I traveled all over Europe. I was using these different currencies because this was in 91, way before any of you were thought of. I was using different currencies, and I asked that question about currency because I remember I was in class one day in economics, and the teacher asked a question similar to that. And he said, I think it was Germany, some country in Europe, do they use the dollar? And I had never stepped foot out of the United States. And I was like, yes. No. Yes, they do. And I was wrong. But some of the kids who were in college with me, and Oglethorpe looks very different now than it did when I was in school. When I was in school, we probably had a population of blacks that were 3%, maybe at best. So many of my classmates had already traveled the world. They had held different currencies in their hand. The concept of a different currency, it didn't resonate because I never had to do it. But my travels and my study actually opened the door for me to get fellowships, scholarships. So I started going to Africa and going to Europe and having a world open up to me that I had never anticipated outside of the books that my mom had in her in our home. And so these were some of the fellowships I got. International Foundation for Education and Self-Help, Department of Defense, and doing all types of research so that I could study and travel. And my travel was transformative. In Europe, I learned the difference in Europeans. And I remember the first time I went to Austria, again in the early 90s, and a person walked up to me and touched my skin. And you would think they'd never seen a black person. But it was amazing because I'm exposed to all these different languages. I say in Guinea, the Republic of Guinea in West Africa, I learned my humanhood because it was the first time in my life that I had the experience of being a racial majority. So I didn't have to go around thinking about being black. I was telling one of my white colleagues, I said, I think about being black every day. She was shocked. I said, yeah, because I'm living in an instance where everything about me, I have to think about it all the time. It's being compromised. But what did it mean for me to be in a country where everyone looked like me, but I could be lost in my own thoughts and I could think philosophical things, not that that person speak to me because I was black in a rude way, but maybe they were just being a jerk. In Senegal, also in West Africa, that's where I say I became an adult and a woman. The religions, both of those countries, they were predominantly Muslim. Polygamy was practiced. Family dynamics were really different. And I learned about the world through my work with Oxfam International. In Colombia, I remember speaking before the Colombian Congress. And right after the speech, a group of black women who were Afro-Colombian came to me, and they looked just like anybody else in this room, except they were speaking Spanish. The issues and challenges that they had were just like our issues, except they were in Latin America. And in Ethiopia, I say ignorance and knowledge because when I thought of Ethiopia growing up, I always saw pictures of famine. So my idea of Ethiopia was that it's this really poor place, it's hot, everybody's hungry. I got to Ethiopia for work and had a bunch of summer dresses and didn't know that their capital had the highest elevation on the continent of Africa, and it was raining. So I was freezing. That was my ignorance. I didn't know it was the birthplace of coffee and that the land was so rich and beautiful and dynamic. So it made me think I always have to go with an open mind and do my research. So I have a 14-year-old daughter, Olivia, and these next couple of slides are going to go quickly because when I was traveling all over the world, and this was before I had a kid, and I'd be collecting trinkets, and I was like, well, who am I doing this for? I mean, it's nice, but if I leave today, somebody's going to think it's cute and throw it away. And I wanted to make sure that if I ever had children, everything that I learned, I was going to give her a heads up. And as a teacher, I was just telling them yesterday, I said, what you get is so different from what your parents had. And these kids come from wealthy backgrounds. Tuition, $30,000, $40,000 a year. I said, what your parents do, and I've been doing as a teacher, I said, we take the basketball, we dribble it, we take it right up to the hoop, and all you have to do is walk up and tip it over. So you don't have to work for it. I said, but if you don't have to work for it, you at least need to learn the lesson along the way so that when you tip it over, you'll know how to do it. So my 14-year-old, I was like, we are going to travel the world. This is us over spring break. We went to Morocco. We had to cover our heads because it's a predominantly Muslim country, or it is a Muslim country. She had the whole tea ceremony with the drinking of the mint tea. Thank you. We went to Senegal, where my ex-husband is from, and she went to the door of no return. Another famous door where a lot of enslaved Africans, this was their last place on the island of Gorée. she was mad at me in that middle picture. That's why she's not smiling. We met up. We went on the beach. She had fresh coconut, and she was covered. You can go to the next slide. We're going through quickly. She went to her family home, and we had chebujen, which is the national dish there, fish and rice. We ate around the bowl. Went to my old tailor, had some clothes made. In 3 days, with me to Senegal, we're getting clothes made. This was our hotel by the beach, the ocean, beautiful. You can continue, please. On the way to Senegal, we had 8 days of travel, or 7 days of travel. Yes, we took the circuitous route and went to Italy so that we could go to Morocco, then fly back up to Spain, down to Senegal, and then through New York. And we had to do that because you don't have a lot of direct routes. We had 5 hours in Italy, jumped in the taxi, ran out, and took a picture in front of the Colosseum. And in Morocco, we saw these beautifully dressed men who were, I think they were from Niger. You can continue. Over the summer, we went to France, and where we were in France was right next to Italy. And so we took a train trip to Italy and had some gelato. And this is us on the beach in the French Riviera. This is her using a telephone, like, what is this contraption? And that is us in Monaco, where they have the races and whatnot. This is us in a town in southern France where we got to make our own perfume and learn about that. And because that's expired, that's the only reason why I put that up there. That was her passport. Us again in Monaco and Nice, and you can keep going. This picture, the only reason I put this up here was because day 4 or 5 when I was in France, I was on Facebook. I know y'all don't use Facebook. And I saw where a friend of mine wrote, hey, in Nice for a couple of days. This was a college friend. And I was like, in Nice? I'm in Nice tomorrow. I had not seen her in 15 years. And because of Facebook, we met up in Nice and we hung out that day. That's Olivia again. And this is us at the Picasso Museum, or her at the Picasso Museum. All right. So what are some of the intangibles when you're traveling and things that are going to take you around the world? And I'm getting to the point quickly. Curiosity, integrity, humility. These are the things you begin to pick up and understand. Experience, where having an experience as opposed to just owning something. And experience and acquisition is a big thing. As the earlier speaker was talking about, if you've got $2,000 to get you some land, that's the kind of acquisition you want, not a Birkin bag, okay? That same amount that you could pay for a Birkin bag could take you on a trip around the world, and it will put you in front of people that will take you farther than you had ever imagined. Thank you. And the pretentious versus being educated, or bougie and bourgeois. What is bougie, y'all? What does that mean? What's bougie? I saw this. What does it mean? It could be, okay, all right. Or like you being extra, like I like my nails done, I like my hair done because I'm bougie like that, okay? What's bourgeois? So, the word bougie comes from bourgeois, or bourgeoise. And what it actually means, it's a French term, and it talks about the French middle class, and they're a well-educated class. There are actually things that come out of the bourgeois class that they were either landowners or shop owners, and there's a certain characteristic, even nowadays, when you consider a person who's bourgeois. Bougie is typically pretentious, okay? I want to look a certain way because I want you to treat me a certain way. This is my concept of what it means to be this particular type of person. However, bourgeois, part of that is knowing yourself, and very particular to the bourgeois class or the bourgeoise class are certain things being well educated, okay? And so that means there are certain things that regardless of the amount of money you have, that will be a marker for the person that you have. And I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts that you in this class or in this room today, you're part of the bourgeois, okay? So whether you realize it or not, because somebody was like, girl, I'm bougie. I said, you can stay bougie, I'm bourgeoise. I have a certain set of standards that many of our parents have put in us, and we say we relegate those to other people. That is a part of our legacy. And let me go through quickly what that is. Thank you. Oh, and can you go back to that other slide? So that slide, Life in Philadelphia, this black woman here, this was supposed to be a caricature. What it's actually showing is this woman who is over the top, ostentatious. So she might be the ones with the long nails, the big hair, the blah, 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 who's like, I'm bougie. Whereas her friend, very well dressed, she knows how to present herself. Bougie versus bourgeoise. Okay. All right. So characteristics of bien éduqué, as the French would say: travel, literature, music, understanding of world religions, language and cultural competency, the different types of entertainment, and a practice or appreciation of the arts. So some of these artists, and I was, as I was going through this, I was like, I am putting predominantly black artists, but, we're amazing. So, of course, Salif Keita, Celia Cruz, Celia Cruz, Claude Debussy. You probably know his song, Claire de Lune. I'm sure you've heard it 1,000 times and never thought about it. Youssou N'Dour, who knows who that is? Burna Boy. I just put that up there for this generation. Cesaria Evora, Stromae, people from all over the world. And I put this up here, and thank you for that next slide. Global literacy, some must reads. These books, as well as the many others you've been exposed to, should be in your library at some point. Segu, written by Maurice Condé, who's Guadeloupean, from former French colony. Persepolis, If Beale Street Could Talk, James Baldwin. Kite Runner, The Prophet, The Alchemist, 100 Years of Solitude. In my travels, I ran into kids who were from the Peace Corps, and those Peace Corps volunteers became people. Are the books that connect you to other people around the world when you start quoting those books. Incredible Reasons to Travel, Street Smart, you'll learn how to manage your money. You can keep going. And Creating Global Citizens, why is this important? Because you will learn about the interdependence of the world systems and the responsibilities and actions it takes to create a just and peaceful world, because we're facing a lot of challenges now. You can keep going. And the 21st century student, these are some of the things you're going to have to learn how to do. Manage employees from other cultures, work for international companies, and most importantly, solve global problems. And how can you start? At home. Some of the sports you involved in, like, I was going to say football, soccer, a global sport. Food, not just Taco Bell, but global foods. Try a Thai restaurant or other things and learn, or Vietnamese, and learn about that food culture, or the Chebujen. Keep a globe at home and just spin it and find out where these various places are. Books and magazines from around the world. You can travel with Netflix and Spotify. Meetup groups that speak other languages. Your friends at school, and of course, learning other languages. And so if you want more information about how to do this, you can actually, I put that QR code up there. You can take a picture, get more information, and it'll put you to a form where I can send you additional information. And that's just the last slide. I know I had a lot of information in there, but I hope that you understand my passion for languages. And the kids that I teach on a daily basis look nothing like you. They don't look like you. The interim trips they go on in March, we had 12 trips this year. I'm going to wrap up quickly. The most expensive trip for 10 days was $6,000. They went to New Zealand, South Africa, Vietnam, Argentina, Patagonia. These kids were going all over the world. Their parents were just dropping money like that. Some of them go every year. And so they're getting look at things, but to some degree, may or may not be getting the exposure. And I'm telling that to you because, yeah, it takes money, but it also takes connections and know-how. If you want to travel every year, if that's what your parents desire, there's a way to do it because there's money to do it that you may not be aware of. But when you begin traveling, first of all, through books and movies, literature and music, and then you get your passport, which makes you a world citizen, no one can stop you. And so I'm just going to end by saying, when I was speaking to my students and I was talking about what I love about being a black person, our people traveled the world way before Columbus. They saw what was there, maybe dropped off a couple of people, which is why you find black people all over the world. And then they went back to a continent that was resource rich. And I say that our people, even when I look at the legacy and the struggle of African Americans, we are not simply resilient. We didn't just survive. We are brilliant. We thrive. We create. We're amazing. And so I want to thank you for your time and your interest. I want to thank Mr. Stewart and Ms. Gwen Mason for this opportunity, and I hope you're just as excited as I am. So thank you.
You did a phenomenal job. Did y'all not enjoy that? Come on, y'all could do better than that. Did y'all not enjoy that? You know what? As my mom used to say, just keep living. Look at the old folk, the older people in the room. And all of us who have traveled. Anybody here have traveled internationally before? Raise your hand if you traveled internationally. That's probably why your excitement is not as high. Start going into other people's culture and learning and you know, meeting and language, and there's a language barrier and all that, and you're trying to navigate, even going to a restroom and things of that nature becomes a little bit more challenging. Then you have an appreciation for it. And you also have an appreciation for who comes to the country and being able to help them when they come, because you want that same type of to you when you go somewhere else. But this is phenomenal. Y'all, I'm sorry I was slow on the slides because I was sitting there, I was caught up, and we posted this on YouTube, so you get an opportunity to go back and look at it again so you can share it. Does anybody have any questions for her? Yes. Can you go back to the QR code? Sure, okay. Okay. The QR code. Any other questions? Anybody have? I know y'all got, somebody got some question. At least one question. Yes. Oh, that's a good question.
You know what? Maybe 40 at this point. Yeah.
Some people haven't traveled to 40 cities, and she's traveled to 40 countries. Right. That's just.
I'd probably say in 1 year, maybe twice, if possible, with the type of work I do. Of course, the pandemic, no one traveled at that point.
Right.
But, and it's typically been through my work. And the French it tipped me over. Because a lot of people are learning Spanish. It's actually a challenge for a French teacher because some schools are doing away with their French programs. And Spanish is a great language, certainly our proximity to Latin America. French will put you in a completely separate category and will open up Europe, Africa, the Caribbean, parts of Asia, whereas in Africa there's only one Spanish-speaking country as opposed to 29 French-speaking countries.
And Ms. Mason, she'll tell you her experience even in college.
Sure. I think that international experience is absolutely crucial. It certainly broadens your horizons in so many different aspects. The most crucial aspect for me is the cultural diversity of people and understanding people, because I think there's so much magic in all people, and getting to know other languages and getting to know and understand how other individuals live, right? And what talents and gifts that they bring to the table, and then you get to share yours. And I have to give incredible kudos to Miss Kim Hodge, because Kim also opened up the doors of opportunity for the Stewart Foundation to spend time in Guyana, which was absolutely phenomenal. Now we've got this significant reach in Guyana that is just absolutely wonderful. And I really encourage all students. We had a conversation with Dr. Janetta Cole a few years ago, and she talked about the importance of travel and getting to know other culture, that other people, and whatever it is you do, get your passport so that you can go and visit. So yes, thank you very much, Hank.
And Belize, I think we had the mayor of Belize on with us. I think, Angie, you have anything you wanted to say? Mm.
Even more fortunate that my mother was willing to garner all of us up and travel after my dad. So 3 of my siblings were actually born in Germany.
Oh, wow. Wow.
We kept going to the same places. So that travel bug is in me forever.
Yes.
Yeah.
When I was in school, and when I first started teaching, there were school trips that used to go to Europe for high school students. And that was a great opportunity. In fact, a friend of mine and I took 4 years in a row, we took a group of high schoolers on a bus tour to New York over spring break. And that included Soho, Harlem, Venice Village, the World Trade Center, a zoo and tour, a play, and a museum visit.
Yep.
Some of those kids have never set foot out of my building.
Yeah. You get your question?
What was your favorite part on those days?
What was my favorite what?
What was your favorite part on those days?
When I traveled?
Yes.
My favorite part on the days of travel was probably eating.
Yeah. I
You know,
can see that. Yeah.
you see different places. It's cool to go to a museum. I saw the Mona Lisa. It's that big with 1,000 people in front of me. So, you know, I can say that I went those places. Or to walk on streets and see buildings that were built in the year 900. You know, our country is not even that old. But the food, because they're different smells, they're different tastes that you're opened up to, and seasonings.
What was your favorite country you went to?
You know what? That's a hard one because there's so many. I would say it, and I lived there probably between Guinea and Senegal, because it's so rich and beautiful. You could just drop any seed and everything grows, and there are waterfalls, and it's just gorgeous. So Guinea in that respect, probably Senegal in terms of the people. They're Muslim, and on Fridays is their prayer day. And someone told me before I went, she says, you're going to love it because it was one of those countries that was colonized, but the people weren't colonized. And when you see the women, they're wearing their long robes, and they're dressed, and they're regal, and they know who they are. There's a lady in the back. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
What I'd like to know is how can we gather a group of our young people to go on one of those?
How many of y'all would be willing to go on a trip? How many of y'all would like to go? Okay.
Yeah.
So there's an interest.
Yeah, and I mean, I've led trips to Senegal. I organize trips for the school, and I'd be happy to work with you to organize a trip.
Let me just also challenge you all. A lot of times, and you said this earlier about learning different languages. So a lot of times that's something that we steer away from, French and Spanish and all these different languages in school, and we don't want to take them. And there's a job waiting for you if you learn 2 languages, like at Hartsfield-Jackson. That's the world's busiest airport, and people are navigating through the Hartsfield-Jackson airport all the time. That speaks different languages, right? And so even being there, I mean, it's just you want to broaden, and so I'm challenging you. I wish I would have done it. I love talking to young people about your future. Your brighter days, your biggest days are still ahead of you. When you start talking to people like me at almost 60, we have more days behind us than we have in front of us. You all have more days ahead of you than you have behind you. And we really want you to be the best you could possibly be. And some of that is learning different languages, traveling. There's a whole world. It's so much bigger than Auburn Avenue. So much bigger than the city of Atlanta, the Southeast, the East Coast in America. It's so much. I would get up I went to Aruba last year for my birthday, right? And every morning I got up every morning just to see the sunrise and the sunset.
I saw the pictures.
It's a whole different.
It is.
It's a different sunset and sunrise in Aruba than it is, and I know it's the same sun, but it rises.
You see the sky differently. You see everything differently. And I know that we're wrapping up, but if I can make this plug, I talk about Africa a lot, and the lady who was speaking about agriculture. Europe and French, they have been my tool. French has been my tool to travel the world. The French have a really sordid history in terms of colonization. There are things about French culture, however, that are fascinating, that I do love. But I challenge you this. If you're learning Spanish, learn Spanish. Learn French. I wasn't even thinking of Africa when I learned French. And because I learned French, there were some opportunities available for fellowship. Almost every trip I've taken overseas has been paid for by a company or some other type of organization. And French has gotten me there time and time again. The fellowships that I've had, it was French. Many of the jobs, even my current job, it's the French. And I say that because with the speaker who was talking about agriculture, if you see, and these are people who are making forecasts, I wanted you to know where the youngest population is, because where the youngest population is where the money is going. So there are companies right now in countries, including the United States, there's currently all this fighting going on between influence from Russia, China, and the United States for influence on the continent of Africa. Because there's so many young people, they know that's where the future of technology, agriculture, they've got the most land that's arable for you to plant stuff. It is in Africa. So I encourage you, if you're interested, start learning those languages. Oh, yes.
How much time did you travel to the countries?
How much time? To fly there? Some places, 8 hours. I think my longest trip was maybe to Thailand, and that was.
Well, you did Thailand.
Yeah, that was a lot. I was living in Africa at that point, and I went to Morocco and then flew over. But it was almost a whole day. Yeah.
I just, I'm yes. Yes. Which one have you been to the most? Which country have you been to?
Countries in Africa that I've traveled to the most, primarily West.
What tips?
That's a great question. What tips are there for people who want to travel? First and foremost, get your passport. And I say that because many of these countries, particularly in Europe and some in Africa, you don't need a visa as long as you don't stay 3 months. So if somebody was to run up to you and go, hey, I'm buying your ticket to France or to Senegal tomorrow, be ready. And you're like, well, it's going to take me 8 weeks to get my passport. A passport is maybe $150. I can't remember how much. Get a passport. That's number one. Number two, for your parents and even for some of you, when you start saving up money because you want a new pair of shoes, a book, even, I don't know, a Chick-fil-A meal. I dropped $17, almost $20 this morning. And, without being too explicit, it'll be gone tomorrow. But that $17, $20, there are places, travel clubs like AAA, et cetera, they allow you to lay away. There are lots of trips where you can put money on a trip and you're saving towards that trip. And there are all types of scholarships available as well, and cheap travel sites. One of my friends, my colleagues, goes on Scott's Cheap Travel. I think they changed the name. And she was like, yeah, I'll be out of school next week. I'm going to Ireland. I found a round trip ticket for $300. $300 is less than, I don't know, a lot of stuff that we have.
And if you want to be intentional and on purpose with your travel, please make sure you go back to the table with Miss Lynn Hendricks. She also handles and does travel, so please make sure you see her this morning.
There's another website I'm looking at. I'm looking for a friend of mine, and you can, if you're ready to travel at these specials, like I saw Europe come up for 5 days, 4 nights, airfare and hotel included like $900 and something, right? So it's out there. You know, you just got to be ready, but you got to have your passport. But I just really want to challenge you all, young people. Get out, start thinking outside of South DeKalb and in Southwest Atlanta. I mean, just Ms. Mason and I, we were just talking again earlier about another trip, or maybe I turned 60. I want to go out of the country for my birthday, and we were talking about putting together a plan to do that. Live as much, and that's why I love. Where's Miss Angela? You know, if there's some place that you want to go, she's probably got a book that's talking about it, and that you can start reading. So when you go there, you're not completely naked and don't understand where you're going, and you know how to navigate and travel through. You have things that you want to see, things that you want to do when you get there, because you've done the research for it. So again, thank you again.
Thank you. And that QR code again is for if anybody's interested in getting more information.
Wow. Excellent. Good job. Can y'all give her a round of applause, please? Okay. So we have Jamarcus and the young man right here. Miss Jenkins, thank you again. That's your, Okay. Yeah. I never like to let good resources go, so we really would love to see how we can find a way to keep you engaged. Just like we brought Phyllis in and we bring Angela, I would love to have maybe every month we talk about another place, and you can give a little tip, But I think when you come here, you should leave here better. You know, how many people are leaving better today than you came in? Did anybody learn anything new today? I know I did. I keep saying my age, but I love learning. And Chris, again, thank you for always bringing young people with you. Chris is like I said, he's our little brother. He's our friend, and he's an advocate for young people. Again, thank you all for sound technology and all of this. Jerome, team, Sean. You know, y'all, this is good. And here's what you have the opportunity to do, young people. You have the opportunity to go back and look at this again. This is on YouTube. You can go and get the link, go out and look. You can share it with somebody, talk about it, grow. You know, and y'all continue to be leaders, not average. You all are not average. You don't come from, the young people, bright young mans with ice cream. You see these feet that are up here, and it represents slaves, and only the strong survived. You come from good stock. No, I'm sorry. You come from great stock. No, I'm sorry. You come from the best of stock. Don't act average. Stop acting average. Start getting caught up in the talking about talk. You know, we don't have time to talk about things. We talk about movement. Average minds talk about things and events. Great minds talk about movement and moving things forward. And that's what we're so excited about, our young people, our leadership, our youth leaders, and all of that. So again, we're getting ready to wrap up. We got you in here in an hour and 45 minutes. We're getting ready to get out. But I'm going to bring what we call our bright young minds. They're going to pray us out. These young people we started working with right before the pandemic, and Mr. Jerome went over and made sure from a technology standpoint, but I love giving Ms. Gwen her props publicly. I just think you have to do that. You have to say thank you. Tanya's not here, our volunteer coordinator, but what she does with volunteers and so any of the adults who want to volunteer with us, we have that access. And just really thank you parents for, not thinking it was robbery to get your children up this morning and bring it. And the kids who came with Mr. Butts, you had to get up. Thank you all. Thank you all for doing that. Thank you. And hopefully every month you're looking forward. But now here's what you got to do too. Here's something. I'm going to challenge you young people to do this. Bring somebody with you the next month. Just bring one person. A lot of times when you sit in here, you think about somebody that you wish heard the same thing you heard. How many other people got a good friend that's not here today that you wish you would have brought with them today? Your good friend is here? Oh, okay. Yeah. Your good friend is already. Bring somebody with you at the next meeting. Don't keep Don't keep this knowledge just to yourself. That's what we do. We're constantly bringing our friends along with us, right? If they're really your friend, you want them to grow with you. You want them to learn with you. You want them to get as much knowledge and wisdom as possible. And we're leading up to the Youth White Linen, which is going to be in July. And I'm telling you, that's going to be a party that you've never seen before, July the 15th. So young people, start encouraging your friends to come out to this Youth White Linen. The cabin, they're getting together, they're putting their plans together. We heard a little bit of it. The plans that you all are putting together, it's going to be at the Port of Sanford Performing Arts Theater, free parking. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. And just keep that in mind. So, Bright Young Minds. So they're going to say okay.
Bright Young Minds. How do we end our day?
With the Lord's Prayer, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For God is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you all so much for coming. See you next month.